Hi, welcome to Music Theory Logic. My name's Andrew, and today's going to be another music theory breakdown. Today we're going to look at Bloody Valentine by Machine Gun Kelly. Let's go ahead into the Logic session. So here we are in Logic Pro in my recreation of this track. If you haven't seen these before, most of the time I don't play the original audio at all in fear of copyrights, and today it's going to be one of those days. And basically what I do is I recreate the instrumental to the best of my abilities, and I try to use instruments that are similar so that you can tell it's the same song. But really my goal is so that we can is to recreate the song so that we can look at the MIDI, and I can show you the scale and the music theory used in this song and how you could better understand this song and perhaps understand your own music production. So let's go ahead and listen to the song, and then I'll explain the key that it's in and where these notes come from. Skip to the bridge here just to avoid some repetition. Cool. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Again, my goal isn't to make the instrumental perfectly sonically equal to the original one. That'd be just a waste of time, mix-wise and recording and whatnot. But I did hopefully get all of these notes accurate so that we can talk about the music theory. So this song is in the key of F sharp minor. F sharp minor has the relative major of A major. That is the major with the same notes. Cool. So if you haven't worked with music theory before, maybe you haven't checked out my textbook, I'll link to that below. We always reference our most basic minor key is A minor. So if I were to take this MIDI and drag it to A, we would notice that we have all the white keys. If we take that down to F sharp, our root note, we'll find the accidentals, fancy way for saying the black keys in this scale. So it turns out we have F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D, E, and F sharp. The chords we use in this song are the 6 chord, D major, the 3 chord, A major, and the 1 chord twice, F sharp minor. That sounds like, I'll play the scale followed by the chord progression. Here's those chords. Awesome. So that basically gives us all the tonal information we need to explain where these notes come from. So let's go section by section. If we go to the intro, so first of all, when you were listening to it, these blue sections down here are live guitar that I actually recorded. I do that a lot of times when I'm using a song that has live instruments. The reason is that guitar is really hard to fake in the computer. All the more reason for producers to learn a little bit of guitar, because a little bit of guitar goes a long way, especially in a song like this. So I also chart it into MIDI just so that we can see all the different notes. So let's first look at the bass. We're doing eighth notes on that progression that I showed you. So a whole note, or 8 eighth notes of the D. That's the root note of our D major chord, then the A, then F sharp twice. Again, following the root position, I have the chord progression going in there. It looks like 4 notes, but these are just voicing the root note twice. Again, the notes we have in a chord define the chord sound. So like D major is D, F sharp, and A. But if I put an extra D note in there or an extra F sharp, it would still be a D major chord. We would just say the chord voicing was different. Then if we look at this guitar, which again I charted in MIDI, got pretty close to sounding right, but it's just not as cool sounding as real tracked guitar. And you can tell that this song has live, real, true playing in it. And it's not just sampling of some sort of other recording or a MIDI-based guitar. So the notes are going like A up to B and back to A. But on the B, there's actually a bend happening. And it doesn't look like it's super accurate in this MIDI. But when I was playing it, I'm basically doing like a quarter tone to a half step bend of that string, and sort of like at the end of it, so like bum dun dun bum dun dun. So I'm kind of pushing the note up, and that's what it sounded to me like. The guitar player, who I think his name's Omar, who was on that original. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about the drums. So if you're not familiar with the whole MGK album, I think it's super cool. I would highly recommend going and checking out the full thing. I believe Travis Barker produced, or at least co-produced, most of the album, and he's playing drums on most of the album. So needless to say, using MIDI-based drums is going to be really difficult to replicate his feel and his playing. So again, I didn't really do that. I wouldn't even think I could with such an amazing player as Travis Barker. You can see my MIDI is pretty not humanized, similar colors and stuff, but the rhythms are all correct. So we've got basically eighth notes happening on a closed hi-hat. That's the top line of MIDI. We've got 2 eighth notes in a row of the kick in the beginning. Then we have a standard backbeat that is the snare on 2 and 4. That pattern basically repeats twice. In the intro, we don't get really any fills until the 8th measure, at which point he doubles up on the kick drum, so we get a second 2 eighth notes, and we get this open hi-hat sound. Cool. And then basically going into where MGK's vocals start, we get a crash and basically the same drum pattern that repeats. And then finally at the end of that section, before we go into the hook, he plays 4 eighth note snares in a row. So I'll show you just that MIDI while we listen to the track. That snare fill I mentioned. We get another fill. Cool. So this next section, which is basically the hook, we get a bigger open guitar chord sound. The chords I'm playing are the same chords we have in the piano. So D major, then A major, then F sharp minor. And I'm holding the first F sharp minor for the tied basically whole note, or for 8 beats. Then the second time I strum it on the second whole note. Then there's this guitar lead, which is also doubled up. The notes that we have there are basically going B, D, C sharp, back to A. I have that charted down here. That's this section. So B, D, C sharp, A. And that fill becomes an central part of the guitar solo. But in the beginning, we just get it here, basically the last measure of a 4-measure sequence, just like where the drum fills happen. And that just provides kind of like a cooler melody to tie it together. Then coming out of the first hook, we get this like post hook section where the drums pick up. Super cool. Goes to 16th note drums, very much a staple of Travis Barker's drumming. Fast and exciting. So that 16th note hi-hat is happening on the top line. Then he's basically playing 4 on the floor, so kick drum going on every quarter note with, again, the standard time snare. He does some extra kicks at the end of the second measure, and then the fourth measure, he does some extra snare rolls at the end, but again, the kick is, for the most part, just on every single quarter note, so doing what we would call 4 on the floor. Nice. Moving along, so that covers basically all of the notes for the bass line, the guitar, chords, and the drums. Then I had it skip. Oh, let's talk about the fill section. So there's these really cool sections with basically a flanger on drum fill. So there's some filtering happening, then a flanger. And so there's this drum fill that is happening that looks like this, like 4 quarter notes of the toms, and then we get these like tom rolls, 16th notes. And then while that is happening, I actually have some flanging and filtering happening. I did that by ear, basically using Logic's default flanger, 63%, lowest rate of speed of change, and the 100% intensity. And that basically happens, I think, twice or 3 times in the song. And it gives the song, like the instrumental, for one, kind of like a modern sound, because it, for that one moment, sounds very like sampled, a la, say, like a hip hop track or some of MGK's other work. But it's also obviously like an acoustic drum kit, like you're hearing in the rest of the song, so it gives it continuity. Then going to the bridge, this is, in my opinion, one of the coolest parts of the song. The chord progression changes, and it is on an 8-measure sequence as opposed to the 4-measure. Pretty unique and cool. So it goes F sharp, E, D, basically walking down F sharp minor, 1, 7, 6, then goes down to the 3. The 4 basically walks up the scale. The 5, 6, back to the 7, and that happens twice. Pretty cool. No notes that are out of scale, but it's pretty unique because a lot of popular songs have repeating progressions, or if there is a bridge, it'll be the same chords in a different order, or it'll be new chords, but it's on a 4-measure sequence. So this is definitely pretty unique. Then we have Travis Barker playing. The MIDI drums really don't do his playing justice here, so I apologize if he checks this out. But basically, he's doing like a dance music-esque build-up, so doing a snare roll that he's building up with intensity and speed, and then adding kicks. Goes from playing every other measure kick drums to playing 4 on the floor, and then subsequently 8th note kicks. We then get the same fill. While these drums are happening, there's filtering. So I have a low pass filter that I'm doing with the EQ, opening up throughout that. Then we go to this final section. So the final hook, twice as long, and then a guitar solo, which was pretty fun to recreate. So we get the same basically hook section from the beginning, but it's twice as long. Then after that, we get our guitar solo. So I guess in this first hook section, the drums have developed a little bit. So when he first comes in, it's a smaller section. There aren't it's the same kick pattern as before. We get the crash in the beginning, but none of the hi-hats. Then he comes in for the 8th note hi-hat pattern. And then following that, he starts to do a really, really active kick drum pattern. It's somewhat softer, but it is active. So you'll notice it's like 8th notes now, like 4 8th notes in a single measure. And then a drum fill, pretty similar. Then one of the coolest things I think rhythmically about the song, besides the 16th note Travis Barker sound, is that for the guitar solo and the first time in the song, we get a halftime backbeat. So it's kind of a breakdown. The snare goes to beat 3, where it was on beat 2 and 4 for the rest of the song. We get quarter note open cymbal sounds or crashes. And that coupled with the guitar solo coming in is pretty cool. So let's talk about the guitar solo notes. Basically going A, C sharp, C sharp. So that's basically on the 3, so the relative major, the first 2 notes of its chord, A and C sharp. Or in our key of F sharp minor, these are the top notes in the chord, the 3 and the 5. So we could look at it either way. That happens 3 measures in a row, and then finally at the very end, we go B, D, C sharp, A, and that run we had heard previously in the song, so that kind of ties it all together. And also this riff, the A, C sharp, we had heard A, B with the bend up to C sharp, like I said. Sometimes the whole note or 2 semitone bend that's happening on the initial guitar. So this is reminiscent, but we go like straight to that note. It's pretty fun to play. Let's listen to that section and notice how cool it feels when we get to, I guess, measure 119 when it comes to a halftime backbeat. More active kick. 16th note cymbals. Here's that halftime. Nice. So I didn't really mention the kick drum in that final halftime section, but he's doing a pretty fast, just an 8th note kick drum pattern. Almost sounds like I would imagine he's using a double kick drum or a double bass on that, just because it would be really hard on the calf drum. But I'm sure he has calf of steel. What am I saying? It's Travis Barker. Can do anything. So yeah, totally ripping drumming on this. Really cool, modern yet also retro punk sound to it. Hopefully you found this music theory breakdown helpful. We discovered that the song's in the key of F sharp minor, where the chords come from, where the guitar notes come from, the themes of the song. We didn't get to hear the vocal, but I encourage you to go check out that song. And if you found this helpful, you'd help me out by subscribing to the channel. And if you do, I hope to see you soon for some new content. Till next time, have a great one.